Divine warning by the prophet for the nations. The citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a national government and cling to the names and principles that delude to slavery. I, the prophet, was prepared by the great God Allah to warn my people to repent from their sinful ways and go back to that state of mind of their forefathers' divine and national principles, that they will be law abiders and receive their divine rights as citizens according to the free national constitution that was prepared for all free national beings. They are to claim their own free national name and religion. There is but one issue for them to be recognized by this government and of the earth, and it comes only through the connection of the Moorish divine and national movement, which is incorporated in this government and recognized by all other nations of the world. And through it, they and their children can receive their divine rights unmolested by other citizens. And they can cast a free national ballot at the polls under the free national constitution of the states governed, and not under a granted privilege, as has been the existing condition for many generations. You who doubt whether I, the prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those that know law in the city hall and among the officials in your government, and ask them under an intelligent tone, and they will be glad to render you a favorable reply, for they are glad to see me bring you out of darkness into the marvelous light. Money doesn't make the man. It is free national standards and power that makes a man and a nation. The wealth of all national governments, gold and silver and commerce, belongs to the citizens alone. And without your national citizenship by name and principles, you have no true wealth. And I'm hereby calling on all true citizens that stand for a national free government and the enforcement of the Constitution to help me in my great missionary work, because I need all support from all true American citizens of the United States of America. Help me to save my people who have fallen from the constitutional laws of government. I'm depending on your support to get them back to the constitutional fold again, that they will learn to love instead of hate, and will live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, supporting our free national constitution for the United States of America. I love my people, and I desire their unity and mind back to their own free national and divine standard, because day by day they have been violating the national and constitutional laws of their government by claiming names and principles that are unconstitutional. If Italian, Greeks, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, it is no more than right that the law should be enforced upon all other American citizens alike and all other governments when a man is born and raised there and asks for his national descent name, and if he fails to give it, he is misused, imprisoned, or exiled. Any group of people that fail to answer up to the constitutional standards of law by name and principles, because to be a citizen of any government, you must claim your national descent name, because they place their trust upon issue and names formed by their forefathers. The word Negro alludes in the Latin language to the word nigger, the same as the word colored alludes to anything that is painted, varnished, and dyed. Any nation, every nation, must bear a national descent name of their forefathers, because honoring thy fathers and thy mothers, your days will be lengthened on this earth. These names have never been recognized by any true American citizens of this day. Through your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth. All nations of the earth that are recognized by the said national government in which they live. The 14th and 15th Amendment brought the North and South in union, placing the Southerner, who were at that time without power, with a constitutional body of power. And at that time, 1865, the free national constitutional law that was enforced in 1774 declared all men free and equal. And if all men are declared by the free national constitution to be free and equal, since that constitution had never been changed, there was no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendment for the salvation of our people and citizens. So, there's but one supreme issue for my people to use to redeem that which was lost, and that is through the above statement. Then the lion and the lamb can lie down together in yonder hills, and neither will be harmed, because love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice will be reigning in this land. In those days, the United States will be one of the greatest and civilized, prosperous governments of the world. But if the above principles are not carried out by my citizens and my people of this government, the worst is yet to come, because the great God of the universe is not pleased with the works that are being performed in North America by my people, and this great sin must be removed from the land to save it from enormous earthquakes, diseases, etc. I, the prophet, do hear and believe that this administration of government, being more wisely prepared by more ingenious citizens that believe in their free national constitution and laws, and through the help of such classes of citizens, I, the prophet, truly believe that my people will find the true and divine way of their forefathers and learn to stop serving carnal customs and merely ideas of man that have never done them any good, but have always harmed them. So, I, the prophet, am hereby calling aloud with a divine plea for all true American citizens to help me to remove this great sin, which is being committed and is being practiced by my people in the United States of America, because they know it is not the true and divine way. And without understanding, they have fallen from the true light and utter darkness of sin. And there's not a nation on earth today that will recognize them socially, religiously, politically, or economically, etc., in their present condition of their endeavorment, in which they themselves try to force upon a civilized world. They will not refrain from their sinful ways of action, and their deeds have brought Jim Crowism, segregation, and everything that harms to human beings on earth, everything that brings harm to human beings on earth. And they fought the Southerner for all these great misuses. But I have traveled in the South and I have examined conditions there, and it is the works of my people continuously practicing things that bring dishonor, disrespect to any nation that lived a life. And I'm hereby calling on all true American citizens for moral support and finance to help me in my great missionary work to bring my people out of darkness into the marvelous light. From the prophet, Islam, salam, and peace and love. And peace and love to people that chimed in when I was reading. Brother Hassan, peace and love. Tazamaji, peace and love.
Peace and love, man.
Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think that's it.
Stern. She was in read.
Let the brother Stern bang. Okay, so let me greet the brother first for Brother Stern Bay, peace and love.
Peace.
Okay, so where my mind went, it's always something new when I'm reading the Divine Warning. So the whole City Hall with an intelligent tone. When I read that, I'm thinking about the brother Trayel. I established a trust for the brother Trayel. I was on speaker as he went in the flesh to City Hall, Sacramento County. Intelligent tone, right? They try to give the brother a runaround initially, but the intelligent tone prevailed. And now trust in the state is on a public record. Now there's no issue moving forward. All he got to do is keep adding assets to his trust. He has an estate. Once he has children, his heirs have an estate, they beneficiaries. And now we're talking about the beginning of generational wealth.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where my mind went when I, intelligent tone at City Hall. And mind you, that's not what makes the trust enforceable just because it's recorded in their public record. That's just strategy moving forward, though. It's still strategy in these times and conditions that we live in. That solidifies, especially you get a certified copy coming from May County. Because remember, another element when we read, if the Italians, the Greeks, et cetera, that means if you got a nationality, the political status is different. The grantor in this trust, the name of his estate is in his free national name. Right? Talking about L's and Bays. Well, in this case, Trayel, his noble title. The language in the trust. We're talking about international protections. We're talking about what the trust is based in, what separates domestic trust from a foreign trust. We're talking about a nationality of in this case, a person that has a nationality put his affairs in order, all right, which shows competency. That's what makes you a minority or not. You knowing that information, intelligent tone. So I wanted to say that before I get into the measure. Um, and anybody that need a trust done and has property or know somebody want to sell them some property, highly recommended that you first establish a trust and then convey that property into the trust. Um, we've put out multiple information on how to construct a trust. If you still just need it to get done, we charge $150 to get the trust done. And just like Brother Trayell, we'll walk you through the steps on how to get it recorded as well. We're not going to leave you out here high and dry. All right, so any questions on that before we get into a little bit of contract law? And trust law is contract law. So before we further get into the contract law. All right. So how to live within contracts. In our everyday life affairs and by way of most social and business activities, we are consciously and unconsciously being subjected by obligations originating from contracts. We are constantly making, constructing, and motivated by contracts. Natural people are being bound by contracts, are held obligatorily liable or responsible to perform or produce by way of some form of contract from time to time. And so we recognize that contracts may be social, personal, or national, etc. In many instances, the operative nature and obligatory enforcement of a contract, real or assumed, may affect any one of us in one way or another. The effects of a specific contract may be positive or negative in character, and the outcomes and effects of the relational obligations established due to these contracts may be beneficial or cause injury, positive or negative. Therefore, we should all have a conscious knowledge and awareness of fundamental contract law and know the characteristics and conditions necessarily needed for determining their validity or invalidity. Is it valid or not valid? And so we extend these questions to the pertinent issues placed before you. So as we go through this, the whole point is to comprehend rather, if a contract is presented to you, is it positive or negative? Is it a breach of contract law or is it not? Only way you would know that if you know contract law, then you can spot the flaw. Just because somebody says something is a contract doesn't mean that it's tangible or it's a contract in law. Now, if you sign a fraudulent contract, which makes you subject, that's considered voluntary. And now they're gonna roll with that until you wake up. Now if you sign a fraudulent contract and then you wake up and realize it was fraud later, you can undo that too. That's another thing. You're not just doomed because you signed this contract in ignorance. Because once you wake up, you're gonna see that they played you, and therefore that undoes the contract. You'll know that if you study contract law. So let's go into some elements of it. What is a contract? What makes a contract valid, binding, and lawful? What makes a contract invalid, void, and unlawful? Too often, the nature and the required essence of contracts have not been properly taken into thorough consideration by many natural people. Furthermore, the lawful conditions that must exist for a contract to be deemed valid and the proper legitimate construction of the same have not been taught to the people by those corporate state agents or agencies, quote unquote, government, schools, etc. Many people holding seats of authority have colorably abused the natural people and have economically benefited from enforcing invalid and void contracts. At the peril of the misinformed, these opportunists prey upon contractual ignorance groomed among the masses, and ignorance which they have perpetuated for reasons of affecting constructive fraud, theft, arbitrary racketeering, legal abuses, personal gain, and for other deviant forms of deception, malfeasance, misrepresentation, and misprision. Some persons selling Uniform Commercial Code instruments, the abbreviation is UCC. Not sure how much background people in this chat have on UCC, but essentially that's an acronym that stands for Uniform Commercial Code, etc. So UCC, or presenting other jurisdictional argument and made on behalf of the corporate state. There are those who have implied that the natural people are deeply indebted to the corporate states because they have contracts that bind them to perpetual debt or servitude, etc. Some of those allegedly binding contracts are marriage certificates, birth certificates, social security cards, and driver's license, etc. I recognize that the ministerial judges, magistrates, prosecutors, policemen, and the like have colorably assumed jurisdiction over the natural people by way of such instruments. However, I respectfully submit this caveat. If the implied debt lawfully exists, then the said contracts must be lawful in their construction and in their original presentment. They too must be produced as evidence of the alleged debt and measured by the laws that govern contracts. The unfortunate social and political reality is that the corrupt politicians have undermined the United States Republic of America. They have been robbing the natural aboriginals of the land, who have been subverted by organized political racketeers. The operative demo governments of foreign law have been violating and usurping the Constitution and trampling on the unalienable rights of the people. They are boldly functioning under color of law through a foreign, they're boldly functioning under a color of authority through a foreign body politic at all levels, federal, state, city, town, and municipal government, etc. The usurping body politic, criminals, usurpers, blatantly refer to themselves as U.S. democracy. Yet they are bound by official oath to support and defend the Constitution for the United States of America, which is by law a Republican form of government. The Constitution and their oath of office are contracts. As for the alleged democracy form of government claimed by some of them, one body politic is constitutional and the other is not. By what contractual validity measurements are these facts or rulings determined? All right, so before we continue this, and I've showed this before, so without going so detailed, unless people here want to get into that, but most of us are familiar with aspects of the Constitution. For one, Article 6 of the Constitution dealing with the Supremacy Clause, dealing with any treaties that was before the adoption of the Constitution, which means treaties that we've established with the United States, Treaty of Peace and Friendship, for one example. So really, when we're saying declare your nationality, unite as a community of people that know their culture, we're saying that to protect each other. Because now, when you're united, here comes an international umbrella now. It's not domestic no more. Now, the reason why it's important to know the Constitution is because that's for checks and balances so you don't get molested. So now, here's an example of a contract. There we go. So this is a standard for any municipal officer. You can go back to the city hall with Intelligent Tone. You can get the contract that they signed before they got sworn in. The reason this is important because it lays the foundation for any claims you make in the future if you happen to get molested or abused for lack of knowledge. You need to know that a contract exists, and that's it. It's nobody's opinion at this point. All municipal, sheriff, I mean the PD, LAPD, whatever PD, whatever sheriff, they take an oath. This is the oath. This is the standard oath. Law Enforcement Code of Ethics. As a law enforcement officer, my fundamental duty is to serve mankind, to safeguard lives and property, to protect the innocent against deception, the weak against oppression or intimidation. Right? So they ain't supposed to be intimidating people. And the peaceful against violence or disorder. And to respect the constitutional rights of all men to liberty, equality, and justice. I will keep my private life and Sullied as an example for all maintain courageous, calm in the face of danger, scorn, or ridicule, develop self-restraint, and be constantly mindful of the welfare of others, honest in thought and deed in both my personal and official life. I will be exemplary in obeying the laws of the land and the regulations of my department. But the laws of the land trumps the regulations, so that's all in the contract. Whatever I see or hear of a confidential nature or that is confided to me in my official capacity will be kept ever secret unless revelation is necessary in the performance of my duties. I will never act officiously or permit personal feelings, prejudices, animosities, or friendships to influence my decisions. With no compromise for crime and with relentless prosecution of criminals, I will enforce the law forcefully and appropriately without fear or favor, malice or ill will, never employing unnecessary force or violence, and never accepting gratuities. I recognize the badge of my office as a symbol of public faith, and I accept it as a public trust to be held so long as I am true to the ethics of the police service. I will constantly strive to achieve these objectives and ideals, dedicating myself before God to my chosen profession, law enforcement. Then they sign it. It's dated and signed. This is the contract. It's going to have their name, their badge number. So where do you find this contract? City Hall level. All right. So if you ever in one of these what they call courts, this is an exhibit that you want to file beforehand. So any officer that did X, Y, Z, you want to, if he breached his contract, you need to highlight what he breached. All right. So every case is different. But at most of the time, dealing with us as Moors, Article 6, the Supremacy Clause, Article 4, Section 1 of the Constitution, dealing with full faith and credit. Full faith and credit on what? Case law. Any judicial acts, any public acts, any public records. So once again, that's how we utilize these proclamations that are in the mayor's office of Chicago, mayor's office of North Carolina, mayor's office of South Carolina, state level of Texas, state level of Georgia, where it says Moorish Americans are Aboriginal and Indigenous to North, Central, and South America. Now the rights of Indigenous people are in play. So once again, for the newer people, all the more have been studying, this should be repetition, and it should be that should be known as at the back of your hand by now. Here's one example of what I said. This on the state level of Georgia. This is what I just said. It's a saying that Moorish Americans are Aboriginal and Indigenous to the Americas. This verbiage is.
I got a question.
Oh yeah, who's that? Okay, there you go. You got it.
So should we also give notice to Canada also if that's part of North America?
So Canada, well, Canada would be the corporate name, but are you saying you know people up there or you have relatives up there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, if these is Moors and they conscious Moors and um yeah, they need to assert this because these
Okay.
proclamations stand over there too. Because that's America. That's still North America. Canaan land will be the more, indigenous name.
Right.
But that's still North America though, So when we say Moabites and Canaanites, that's Canaan land. That's
Yeah.
what the corporate name is called Canada today. So, you know what I mean? Just FYI, just for everybody comprehend that. But that's a great question though.
Islam.
Islam.
Do they
Uh,
do they recognize themselves as being part of North America, Mafi? Speaking of
uh,
Canada,
okay. Yeah. Yeah, they ain't really about them recognizing that's just the land they own. You know what I mean? Like just like they calling this the United States, this is North America. You know, the United States corporations occupying North America since most of the true Americans aren't unified and identifying under the one culture. Um, so therefore they just occupying for most people when they come to North America. Oh, I've arrived in the US. I've arrived in Canada. So the same thing like the whole tech. We went a couple of weeks ago, how Texas became Mexico. I mean, Mexico became Texas. Everybody got Texas plates and it's Texas. Right? It must be Texas. I'm driving through Texas now. That's what's going on. It's power in the people's competency at a large scale, a large clip. We got 10,000 people in one centralized area that know they Moors. But yesterday they thought there was black, Negro, and colored, Latino, and Hispanic. The whole ethos changed 24 hours later. Right. And then, of course, think tank, unity, structure, plotting and planning, doing for self, centralizing finances for investment purposes. Because if it's 10,000 people together and they putting in, let's say they put $10 a week in the treasury, it's 10,000 people that agree to just do that. We got in-house funds. We don't care what nobody else doing. We don't need no loans. We don't need nothing. Be self-sufficient. Now we can start getting land and start doing stuff at a faster clip. 10,000 people on the same page. That ain't even a lot. 500 people on the same page. Forget 10,000. You can do some great work. Um, any other thoughts, statements, comments? Somebody, Hanuna
would
Bay, peace and love.
would more be the proper term to address a Hispanic? I mean, I'm sorry to say Hispanic, but a person of Spanish descent. Like, would you call them more, or is there a proper term for a Spanish person other than Latino, the corporate term that we were given? And I yield.
No, these is Moors too. So let's do some little repetition. This is a national hero of Mexico. Um, Brother El Yanga, 1570s. He was responsible for popping off um Mexican Revolution. So this brother looked just like me or you. Dark skin, thick lips, kinky hair. And it's people like this today, mind you, still there right now, right? So our people is classified as Latino. When they say Latino, they're talking about us. They're blacks, Latinos is nothing. Is the only reason it's titled something different is so that they can keep the people of the land that are really the same people thinking they different. That's a military tactic called divide and conquer. But it doesn't change the fact that we're not black, we're not Latino, we're not Hispanic. These are terms that allude to slavery. Now remember, because Latin is a language that we spoke, so they nickname our people Latinos, right? Our people spoke Arabic, they nickname our people Arabs. Original Arab, not we get what we'll be seeing today, but like I say, before Reconstruction, everybody was melanated in these areas, so we the original Arabs, etc. So this would be information that you would use to unite the people, to show that Latino people identify Latinos as simply Moors. Before I lose my train of thought, dealing with the contract law, let me make sure I greeted everybody too before I start getting. Okay, I greeted everybody. So, 11 USC 15. Oh, Benjamin Bay. Peace and love, man. Um, so back to the contract and international obligations. So this is codified Article 6 right here, even though it's 11 United States Code subsection, or section 1503, it's still international in scope. Because why? To the extent that this chapter conflicts with an obligation of the United States arising out of any treaty or other form of agreement, that's a contract. A treaty is a contract, by the way, in an agreement to which it is a party with one or more other countries, the requirements of the treaty or agreement will prevail. So that means the agreement of the treaty is more important than any internal police precinct policies, any of that type of situation. Now we're learning the law, but what happens is since we're not united and just a couple of us, sprinkles of us know what they're doing out here as it pertains to this, and there's no communities, they're giving us a little more pushback. It's not just the red carpet laid out. That's why I always talk about the Chinatown, Koreatown, Little Bangladesh. Now it's more laid out, especially if we're honorable. It's not just, I'm not subject to this, but you're not living an honorable life. But you want to enforce the laws of our honorable ancestors. It's not gonna work for you. You're gonna get your windows bust out. It's not gonna work for you. This is a divine movement as well. And what's more divine than our people working together, setting up businesses and having community? There's nothing more divine than that. And that's in harmony with nature. So if you're not doing that, forget trying to exercise some laws, forget trying to get out of anything. Because when you look around, you're not passing the sniff test. There's no community, there's nothing. That's how they're looking at it. That's how nature is looking at it. Forget what human being, how they're looking at it. The divine law is looking at it like that. Now for the new people, any questions on like the foundation I'm laying with contract law, how our treaties or contract law. So there's a couple of new people in here. So let me just bring this up. Let me just bring up the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. So when we say a Treaty of Peace and Friendship between Morocco and the United States, we're talking about the people of the land that organized and elected a sultan, emperor sultan, did the treaty negotiations and helped these pilgrims get into government. What we mean by pilgrims, the Jamestown crew, and that's 1610. Remember, Jamestown, Boston Tea Party, that's all 1600s. So it was a period where these Slavs that were under the jurisdiction of the mulatto or British Moors, all the noble families was melanated. And this is imperative for the new people along here to understand how the events, how things got to today. Contrary to what they teach in K through 12, these Slavs were under the jurisdiction of Moors that were Christian, that were Roman. Queen Elizabeth, King Louis, King George, all these people that they teaching you was blonde hair, blue eye, was really melanated people. But what happens is they exile their Slavs to the Americas with the agreement of our Sultan and let's say Queen Elizabeth I. That's how you even got Jamestown. So the agreement between the Sultan of 1786, it was an alliance. Now, matter of fact, let me just pull that up. Now, keep in mind, they're gonna make everybody look like they're somebody else, but that'll cause reconstruction. So look up the Anglo-Saxon Moroccan Anglo-Saxon alliance. Moroccan Anglo-Saxon. I know I butchered that. You fix this Anglo. All right, so remember 17th century, when was the treaty? 17, right? So we still dealing with the 17s. All right. So when you saying Sultan of Morocco, this is the Sultan of America. This is not what he looked like. That's what Arabs look like today. Keep that in mind. Uh Regardless, what was this thing about? This would led up to Jamestown. This would led up to the United States, even the 13 colonies. It was a sultan in America, Al Moroccan, what they pronounce Morocco, American, Moroccan, the same thing, allowed Slavs to be here. So I'm not gonna go too in depth on this, but look into that and you'll start seeing that it was an alliance. It was a trade of arms, it was a trade of natural resources. And even her, Queen Elizabeth, didn't look like this at all. Well, at all. So, right. So this is all reconstruction and a throw off. These are two melanated people from different jurisdictions, Muslim, Christian, but the same nationality. Right. So the reason why this is so what? Because the way we were groomed in Reconstruction. That's why this is so. Oh, what? I didn't know. I didn't know this existed. All right, so let's go back to why I brought up the treaty, because I brought up Article 6 and the Supremacy Clause. All right, so like I love to bring up, we got Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, all up in here, John Adams, people you thought was the founding fathers. Well, they are the founding fathers. Well, they're not even the founding fathers of the United States, because once again, the presidents before George Washington, Benjamin Banneker Bay, John Hanson, the 8 people before him was all melanated. He was the 9th president. So they're not even the founding fathers of the United States. I was going to just say that, like, most people think they're the founders of America and all this. They're not the founders of America. They're not even the founders of their own thing. Right? We had to assist them. And then these people got appointed to do what? Once we taught them how to run government, because remember, you can't forget the last couple of weeks, these people observe, like a child would observe his surroundings. They observe with the indigenous people of the Americas how they conducted business, what they call the Iroquois Confederation. That's why they created the Articles of Confederation. And then they named their 13 colonies when they joined forces, the United States, the USA. That's their DBA. They got all these ideas from us. All right, so now you know who the United States is. All right, and when they speak of our Sultan, Your Majesty. All right, so that lets you know superior and inferior. Thomas Jefferson and the crew. You see this? And his Majesty. So Thomas Barclay, Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, all calling our Sultan Your Majesty. Thank you. All right. That should be clear as day. Like, okay, what? And also think about, for the new people, why would we be dealing with, if Morocco's over there in Africa? Remember, the Kingdom of Morocco got established in 1956. This is 1700s. Why would the Sultan, why would the founding fathers of America that just got their independence, July 4th, and that wasn't even a real day. We already know it was Treaty of Paris. They really King George really got freed them later, like in the 1783, something like that. But the commercial thing is July 4th, 1777. They got their independence. So why would this thing that just got their independence be entering into a treaty with some Africans? And so they're in America now. They're no longer paying taxes to the British. They dumped all the tea off the Boston Tea Party. We're not paying taxes to y'all because we're not over there no more. That makes no sense. We're doing our own thing. Why would they enter into a treaty with some Africans in America? Does that make sense? Why would they come to America to enter into a treaty with a sultan in Africa? Like if North Africa's over there, I'm just doing devil's advocate just to help y'all think. They're in America, but why don't they just go to Africa and do the treaty? Why come to America and to enter into a treaty with a Moroccan sultan in Africa? For
Hey,
one,
Sheik,
Morocco.
I
Yeah,
got a
go ahead. Go
question.
ahead. Uh-huh.
So is it correct to say that Pocahontas' father owned a majority of the landmass where they was trying to colonize? So when they did the little union between Pocahontas and John Smith, that was the trickery to get them to get in control of all these colonies and do what they wanted to do, how they did it. Is it safe to say that? And I yield.
Yeah, that was the beginning of it. That was the beginning of it. And things of that nature. That story was a principle. It wasn't just that. That was their tactic. Marrying to the Aboriginal women of the Americas. Not a bloodline. Now the Englishmen got jurisdiction. Certain, you know what I mean? Now that was definitely a tactic. And remember how young she was too. So she was like 12. So that was a whole other thing.
So another thing, so I don't think necessarily being that how young she really was willing to do that, like they portrayed, like she was so excited to go to England. I think it was more so a thing between her father and the colonizers, as he agreed to do something because he thought it would benefit his people in a sense, and he got tricked. That's what I think happened. I mean, is it safe to say that? And I yield.
I hear you on that, but it was stated that the father was ready to behead the Englishman, whatever his name, Captain Proctor or John Smith. Pocahontas, well, we know that's not her commercial name, is Monotoka. Um, her father, which was a sheik, was about to kill him. Her daughter was like, "Spare his life, please." So that was the reason why he got spared. Um,
Might have been groomed.
yeah, so but regardless, that was the beginning of the fractionalized how we got our demise later because of stuff like that. So fighting amongst ourselves, stuff like that. And then the mulatto children that came up out of these situations, like I say, they start going to war with their fathers. Their moms were Slavs, so they're like, man, we finna go to war with our fathers. So all the mulattoes, all the mixed children was like, we Roman, we Christian, and we going to war with our fathers. All these Muslim wars, everybody got sultans and the caliphate and caliphs and sharifs and these royal families. We shutting all that down, and we Christian and Roman now. Now the bloodline is still more, but the political motivation or political is Roman, politically Christian, but they're still Moors. There's mixed Moor, what they call mulatto. Um, that's all the reason why we fail. All them reasons, But and I guess in this scope, what I'm showing as far as the contract, what I'm laying down for as the scope right now is this is another contract between Moors and United States citizens. Moors would be the people that's already here, different clans. I don't care. Ananawita, what they call, whatever, what they call in Cherokee now, Inca, Seminole, different tribes of Moors was already here. Yes, some of us was infighting, and that's what the whole Iroquois Confederation was about, or any confederation for that matter. The reason we form confederations is we like, man, stop all this fighting amongst each other. You see, we starting to get invaded by foreigners, and they using tactics. It's time for us to stop all this silliness. So that was why some of us formed confederations. One of the reasons too. But in this document, I want to lay the foundation: Moors and U.S. citizens, two separate things. America is not the U.S. It's an entity that got created and entered into a treaty with the home team, which gave them sanctions to be in America. Um, so now that you're seeing the treaty, Article 6, see how Moors all in here? Moors, short for Moroccan. The treaty was signed in Philadelphia, not Africa, America. So the Sultan of Morocco is the Sultan of America. Before any presidents of the United States, we have sultans here. All right, so I just want to highlight that. Any questions, for the new people on this space, please, if I need to repackage something or say something in a different way, I'll do that. Now let's go to Article 6. Please remember, the whole theme is dealing with the contract. And I just showed you one of the U.S. codes. Let's go straight to the treaty. Let me see. Article 6. So this is the nickname called the Supremacy Clause. Article 6 establishes the following key points. It declared that the Constitution, along with federal laws and treaties made under its authority, is the supreme law of the land. So that treaty that I just went through is more supreme than the Constitution itself. All right, so now this is the contract. So now back to whoever, the officer, whoever. I just showed you a standard oath of office, right? So this is the standard oath of office. Now that we know this information, so if they say they take an oath to the Constitution, that means everything in it. All right, so now we lay the foundation, contract law. All right, let's go back. Any thoughts on any space before I continue? All right, so let us now take a logistical look at contracts. Let me check the chat here. Okay, well, the brother hit me. Said he was intrigued. Brother had to leave. Okay, so let us now take a logistical look at contracts. Contract is derived from the old Moorish Latin word contract here. It means to draw, to agree upon, to establish by agreement, to enter upon, and to undertake mutually. Contracts are essentially manifest written or oral agreements or covenants that are mutually entered into by two or more parties, involving or bringing the said parties into conditional obligations, which are enforceable by law. Contracts may be classified in accordance with the nature and elements that initiated their construction, etc. A contract is thusly a promissory note or covenant made between the identified and competent parties that creates, modifies, or destroys a legal relation upon sufficient and non-vague considerations, which demands of a party to the contract to do or perform, or not to do or perform a particular thing. Upon the promise or obligation created by a contract, one side ascends to the other. This is why a consciousness of the nature and essence of contracts are necessary elements of everyday living, and demonstrative of why we all must be diligent in our social, personal, and national affairs. Thus, we must be aware that a valid and lawful contract must demonstrate the following. All right, so now we get into fundamental contract law. So when you know this and you see a contract that doesn't have these elements, you know that the contract is not valid. All right, so a contract must show in its preliminary making and construction the clear and substantive offer made by one party and demonstrate the mutual acceptance affirmed by the other party. A contract must be producible in existing evidence upon demand made by either party to the contract, which in itself may be in question, dispute, or controversy. So if you in a court and they say, "Oh, you're supposed to do this," where's the contract? Now, while people that sleep don't know that the contract could be the driver's license. That's why if you ever, people should just go to court or what they call court and just study, just look at people that's coming and going and just take notes. It's like, oh man, you gonna see how they getting people. You gonna hear the judge be like, or the magistrate, "Oh, you signed the driver's license. This your signature?" I heard that about 4 or 5 times. I'm like, okay, that's how they getting them. You agree to these terms. It's always back to the contract. So that's why when we file documents as more, we showing our nationality cards. We coming with law, case law, treaty, the checks and balances of how things are supposed to go. All right. So a contract must be produced in manifest writing, evidence, and contain the details of agreements, debts, or promises, which all the terms, obligations, and the conditions which clearly show and serve as proof that a valid and enforceable obligation, promise, or debt exists. That's back to the oath of office from any officer. That's why it's good to grab that and put that in as an exhibit in court to lay the foundation, because you're showing that this person with a wet ink signature signed off on the contract that he's clearly violating right here, she's violating right now, if they're violating. A contract must be a deliberate and conscious agreement between competent parties. Competent parties. It must be a meeting of the mind. A party to a contract cannot be a minor. All right. So a minor could be a minority, which is an incompetent person, can't handle their affairs, or a child. Those two people in those two states cannot enter into a contract. So once you're not a minority no more and realize that you were a minor once you signed these past ones, it gets undone because you're exposing the fraud. They played you in your incompetent state, like a vampire. A contract must be entered into by free will. They can't force you under duress and coercion. That's a violation of contract law. A contract must not be created under threat, duress, or coercion, lest it won't be void in law. A contract must be substantive and germane to the subject matter. A contract must be of legal consideration. It cannot be based on unlawful consideration. When you go deeper into consideration, that means something of value. Back to the Constitution. Money is gold and silver. Universally, gold and silver coins where money is. A Federal Reserve note is just that. It's a note. It's a promise to pay. A promissory note in full. In short, it's a note. Now, we get everybody uses that to barter. That's one thing. But in contract law, that's another thing. If there's no consideration, then there's no contract unless party A and B agree to use whatever bartering tool is being, I don't got no gold and silver, but I got some greenbacks. I got Federal Reserve notes. Are you willing to take that? If party B says, "Oh yeah, I'll take that," now that's different. Now it's different. Now it's legal, right? But if your position is you never gave me nothing, the bank never gave me a loan for this house, I never got nothing of tangible, no consideration. Nah, that's another issue. It depends what direction you're going. All right, now a contract must possess mutuality of agreement and mutuality of obligation. So it's mutual. Both part, everybody is agreement. A contract must not be vague, unclear, uncertain, nor can it contain terms of conditions that are not ascertainable. A contract must show valid signatures of the parties to the contract instrument in order to verify its validity. So if it's 6 members or 6 people involved in the contract, How many signatures does it need to be at the end of the contract? 6. If it's 4 people involved, 4 parties involved in the contract, how many signatures supposed to be on the bottom of the contract? Wet ink signatures, 4. But if it's just one signature, but it's 4 people involved, that's a violation of contract law. Most people, this is basic. This is basic contract law. If a contract fails to satisfy the laws that govern its making or construction, then any such contract is void ab initio and is considered dead in the view of the law. So the contract is no contract. Once you point out the fraud, and later, what we're going to be doing as we get more established and start getting land and getting proper footing, we'll start assisting our people that have these mortgages and getting threatened with foreclosures and all this type of stuff. Because nothing of value was given. The bank never gave party A a briefcase full of money. There was nothing loaned to them, but that's later. But I'm just giving you an example of how our people are being raped for not knowing law. All right. So these are just different contracts, different. You see, it's 25 right here, but it's more than that. All type of contracts. You got written contracts. You got implied contracts. That's why the Judge Judy courts, Judge Joe Brown, Judge Mathis, these are what they call small claims court. Is no bar member, no attorney. It's just evidence for evidence, and that's really how it's supposed to be. But what happened is they'll be like, "Oh, let me see your text messages. Oh, it looks here. You said you're gonna pay, or you didn't disagree, or the actions later show that you knew you had to pay, or whatever." So sometimes the contract is just based on how people was moving, and that's called an implied contract. Yeah, it was no paper, but you clearly agreed to the situation by the actions. All right. So,
Now, I have a quick question.
okay, yeah, you got it.
Um, from the list of all these different types of contracts that you have here listed, what is the difference in an adhesion contract?
You see the word
Or
adhesion here?
no, I don't. But I hear that a lot often. Adhesion contract.
Oh, that would be the violation.
Okay, is that like
Adhesion,
hidden? Like if it's a hidden terms and conditions that you didn't know about being
yeah,
applied to the performance side of your contract? So it's
yeah,
like fail to disclose. Because it's like if say party A failed to disclose information to party B before entering into the contract, um, can well that would make it the contract null and void for lack of disclosure, right?
right. That's true. Let me just bring up
Okay, so then if party B wants to enforce say a violation of contract of party B, will for say just a random separate reason, has nothing to do with party B knowing about the fail of the full disclosure. If party B finds out about the fail of full disclosure, that means that that contract is null and void. Will that then relieve party B of any said like performance in the contract? Does
right.
that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah. No, I feel what you're saying. Yeah, because um, I'm gonna use the restroom,
Because
and
like
I be
say how these people play kind of childish sometimes. So they'll say like, okay, well, you entered into this agreement, you entered into this contract, um, um, but somehow they violated or breached the contract before the claim of you violating and breaching. And then when you bring that up, they say, well, you did this, so it doesn't matter because you failed to do your end of the deal. But Party Party A is really the one that came in deceptful with like deceit failing to let you know, hey, look, this is what's gonna go on if you know
Yeah. No, I
you
feel you.
do
I'm gonna bring it up right now. I gotta use the restroom real
Oh,
quick.
okay, okay.
We gonna get into
All right,
adhesion right now.
Mm-hmm.
all right, for sure. My bad. All right,
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How's everyone doing with the information so far?
Pretty
We're doing
good.
great.
Just soaking
We're
it
doing
in.
information.
Very good and on point. I'm very much so appreciating this demonstration, and I yield.
Yeah, code demonstration for sure.
Mm-hmm. Is it anyone's first time like hearing about this? Everyone's pretty like studied in this area.
Yeah, I want to say I printed this off RV Bay Publications. They got a ton of these printouts for sure. I think this one maybe a couple pages for sure though. Like it's pretty thick packet right here. This page we looking
Mm-hmm.
a ton of them, sure.
Mm-hmm.
And mad simple too. Like right here, like this is kind of how we're all tied up and going outside, whether you go to the grocery store or driver's license, pretty much everything, are taxing us to death, quote unquote. So if you know how to, live within contract, because like you were saying, getting your windows busted out and all that, like, yeah, they're supposed to respect the law, but they're not, because the numbers are like weak. But even if you know everything, you still may have to, not capitulate, but knowing contract law will really save you from trying to not trying to be a renegade or trying to look like somebody just bucking the system. Like it really helps, but I yield.
Islam. And this just like Brother Trayel, that's why I love the fact that he, actually went to the city hall and got it recorded because they tried to give him the runaround initially. Um, and some people might have deterred them to not even, you know what, I ain't messing with these people, but you know, they gonna test you. Uh, okay, adhesion, that's what we was doing. Okay, so let me look up adhesion. Adhesion contract. There we go. So I ain't got to finish typing that. Adhesion contract. Let's go. All right. So an adhesion contract is a type of agreement characterized by non-negotiable terms and conditions typically drafted by one party, the stronger party, with significantly more bargaining power than the weaker party. So they preying on your incompetence. This imbalance, that means not harmony. If there's imbalance, that means there's no balance. That means, right? So it's not in harmony. Often means that the weaker party cannot negotiate the terms of the contract. They're preying on the minorities. They're preying on the minors. They're preying on the incompetent people. All right. So adhesion contracts are commonly found in consumer transactions, such as insurance policies, leases, and service agreements where the consumer has little choice but to accept the terms presented. They are also referred to as boilerplate contracts or standard form contracts. Now, that's not a standard form contract. So an adhesion contract, the bullet points are they're trying to play you, they're trying to finesse you. It's take it or leave it, and it's nothing mutual. That's contrary to everything we just read up here with mutual. It must be mutual, right? That's not mutual. That sounds like gangster tactics. They trying to bully you into something. All right, so the brother brought up adhesion contract, so I wanted to get into that. Where the other one at? There we go. So yeah, so now everybody know what an adhesion contract is more specifically, and it's fraudulent. That's why you need to be able to spot adhesion contracts by knowing contract law, the basics. You can spot them. And typically also what they're not putting in Wikipedia and these search engines is that typically in these contracts, like I said earlier, it's like four people involved, but it's only one signature, only one person neck on the line. right? Standard contract got at least two it's at least a party A and a party B. It should be minimal two two signatures, right? So most people aren't conscious of this fact, and we perish for a lack of knowledge. Any thoughts on statements, comments before I continue? All right, so remember to never accept legal instruments from the corporate states without cross-checking their presentments. Remember that for the most part, they're operative feudalists, feigning as legitimate constitutional governments. Their color of law activities have already proven them unworthy of trust or honor. Therefore, when dealing with the corporate state employees and quasi-government pseudo-officers, always measure their actions by constitutional principles. Protect yourself from their bureaucratic and institutionalized fraud whenever possible. So what is fraud? Fraud is an international perversion of truth for the purpose of inducing another, in reliance upon it, to part with some valuable thing belonging to him or to surrender a legal right. So they're trying to get you to surrender your unalienable rights. Oh, that's fraud. It is a false representation of a matter of fact, whether by words or by conduct, by false or misleading allegations, or by concealment of which would have been disclosed, which deceives and is intended to deceive another, so that he shall act upon it to his legal injury. Now, here's some case law to support that. Brainerd Dispatch News Company versus Crow Wing County. Fraud is any kind of artifice employed by one person to deceive another. Here's another case, Goldstein versus Equitable Life Insurance. So now, in these cases, it was ruled upon what we're talking about. It was ruled upon what fraud is. Just to add on to what we're talking about. So what happened in Goldstein versus Equitable Life Insurance? It was ruled that fraud is a generic term embracing all multifarious means which human ingenuity can devise, and which are resorted to by one individual to get advantage over another by false suggestions or by suppression of truth, and includes all surprise, trick, cunning, dissembling, and any unfair way by which another is cheated. Johnson versus Donald. Bad faith and fraud are synonymous, and are also synonyms of dishonesty, infidelity, faithlessness, perfidy, unfairness, etc. And also in Joinder versus Joyner. All right, so let's continue here. So administrative law and administrative law judges. Administrative law is that body of laws created by administrative agencies in the form of rules, regulations, orders, and decisions. Administrative law judges are hearing officers or hearing examiners established by the Administrative Procedure Act 556. These are officers who preside over administrative hearings with no power to administer oaths, to take testimony, to rule on questions of evidence, and to make agency determinations of fact. Politically, and as used in constitutional law, administrative officers are of the executive department of government, and generally one of the inferior rank, and legally a ministerial or executive officer as distinguished from a judicial officer. All right, so a judicial officer will be an actual judge. An administrative officer is just an examiner. He's just taking notes. He or she's taking notes and representing an administrative agency. They don't have the power to say anything on what you're saying. In law, we know what's going on. today. So all these people are administrative officers because there's no Article 6. It's supposed to be Article 3 courts to handle lawful matters. One of them, if you look up back to the Constitution, Article 3, dealing with Article 3, Section 1 and 2, you're dealing with diversity of citizenship. So any non-US citizen that has a conflict or misunderstanding with a U.S. citizen, any non-U.S. citizen, and a U.S. citizen have a debate, the proper venue would be Article 3 court or a federal level court, not the state of or municipal. And that's just in the contract. That's what the contract says. That's why it's important to declare your nationality and be part of a community of people of your national peers. Back to the Chinatown, Koreatown, Little Bangladesh examples. When you have communities like this, now you can exercise jural societies. You have consuls, consulates. The community elects people that know the most law. Now the ambassador is going and dealing as an ambassador for the nation state to make sure the contract is not violated for the community, right? The community has a contract, right? Treaty, international law, rights of indigenous people. That's why it's important to have unity. Unity is trust law. When you look up unity in the law dictionary, it's going to take you to the law of estates. Unity is a law term that says it's dealing with the law of estate. An estate is a trust. Unity is trust amongst the people to do X, Y, Z a certain way. And then we write that in written form. I don't care if it's the family trust or community trust. It has to start with an agreement and a trust amongst the people. And that's what makes it divine. When you have communities that don't trust each other, now we're back to the minority thing. Or people that kill each other. We low vibrational. We're not thinking about nothing in the future for no heirs, nothing. Now you in dishonor, and you're going to be treated like you in dishonor. Right? We've been treated like that, right? Who getting treated the worst? Who living in the worst conditions? People classified as minorities, Black, Negro, color, Hispanic, Puerto Rican, Indian. So it's all connected. When acting to enforce a statute and its subsequent amendments to the present date, the judge of the municipal court is acting as an administrative agency and not in a judicial capacity. Courts in administrating or enforcing statutes do not act judicially, but merely ministerially. Right? Because the penal code statutes or ordinances are coming from the city of or the state of. And when you look up the charter, you look in the charter of the state of or the county of, you'll see in their charter, they say they're a municipal corporation. They have board members. If you're not on the board, then what's that got to do with you? That's internal, right? So once again, that's the power of community. That's what comes next. Is international protections. Once you show that you show unity first, that's the test. Show unity, then enforce divine law. You don't skip steps. It's not enforcing divine law and no unity. Other than that, you're gonna have some victories and have some losses here and there. That's just what it is. That's what it is. All right. So the judge ceases to sit as a judicial officer because the governing principle of administrative law provides that courts are prohibited from substituting their evidence, testimony, record, arguments, and rationale for that of the agency. Additionally, so you hear that? So they can't even talk about rationale that's not dealing with the agency. They can only deal with the agency stuff. They can't even talk about international law. Only judicial officers can do that. Additionally, courts are prohibited from substituting their judgment for that of the agency. Right? So if they're doing that, that's fraud. If they're putting their agency before the Constitution, it's fraud. Courts and administrative issues are prohibited from even listening to or hearing arguments, presentation, or rationale. Ministerial officers are incompetent to receive grants of judicial power from legislator, their acts, and attempting to exercise such powers are necessarily nullities. The elementary doctrine that the constitutionality of a legislative act is open to attack only by persons whose rights are affected thereby applies to statutes relating to administrative agencies, the validity of which may not be called into question in the presence of a showing of substantial harm. Question in absence of showing the substantial harm, actual or impeding, to a legally protected interest directly resulting from the enforcement of the statute. So it got to be brought up. It got to be talked about. It has to be on the record that you know your rights. At least put out there, and that's the whole point of sending in writs to the courts before you even physically in there. Because now you have tangible evidence that you can use for an exhibit, as well as in open court, you're reiterating what you already filed, letting them know what the rules of the game are, right? So that's important. Any thoughts, comments, statements on that?
Oh,
Okay. Okay, so that's the basic. This is basic contract law 101. Let me go into the holy book, and then we can close out if nobody has any other thoughts, comments, or statements on any level. Where's where'd you put the holy book at?
You talking to yourself?
Yeah, pretty much.
Hello?
Yeah, you got something, Trey?
Yeah, I got a quick little question on it. Can you go over again what you meant when it says a judge ceases to sit as a judicial officer, and it says
Oh, let me bring it back up. Okay. Right here, judge to consider a judicial officer.
yeah, and then it specifically because I was doing something. It said the courts and administration issues are prohibited from even listening to or hearing arguments, presentations, or rational. Can you go over that one real quick for me?
So on one level, their position is to that of the agency. They're not Article 3 judges to hear constitutional or international law. That's not what their job is. Their job is to only tell you what their policies is about. They're only there to talk about their internal policies.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Like not the proper venue.
Not the proper venue, right? That's the whole point. Is to expose that it's not the proper venue. You know what I mean? By their incompetence, by just the letter of the law. Yeah, you're exposing the fraud. Because anybody acting like they're judges, then they're held to knowing the Constitution.
Right.
You know what I mean, since they want to act like judges. All right, well, act like you know what I'm talking about. You gotta be.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was thinking it was leaning that way, and I wanted to make sure. Yeah. Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, no, it's not. Where any other thoughts while I'm looking for this?
Yo, would that be like a referee? And like a referee got to know the game, but the referees can't know the plays of the teams. They can only call the game. Like, they can't be like, "Hey, yo, LeBron, take that three," or "Don't take that three." They'd be like, "Oh, they got to be just like his foot was on the line." He traveled and shit like that. Like that's kind of what a judge is to see. Like, okay, I have to know all of the laws. I can't interject what I personally feel because I'm just here to see what y'all doing, going back and forth up and down the court. I can't be like, "Hey, yo,"
Right.
yeah, that's kind of what I feel like a judge should a referee because it's between two teams. It's your defensive, it's your offense, the plaintiff and the defendant in the kangaroo courts. The judge should be a referee and not the person that ultimately judges the game. Because in any sport, you want the teams to dictate the outcome of the game and not the referee. But sometimes that happens, like, what? That definitely wasn't out, or blah, blah, and the referee just make a bad call. It's kind of like, or the judge give your family member 47 years of BS. Like, what the fuck is going on?
Right.
Yeah, I can see what you mean, and then like if the judge, which is you considering the ref, if he's out of line, you could challenge the call type of thing.
Yeah. Like a
Yeah,
race. Like, oh, he said that. No, I'm challenging what the ref threw out. Or like a judge, like, oh, you're classified as this. Like, no, flag on the play. I have documentation here.
yep. You got the
Documentation,
document.
make me play in this arena. I have documentation. Like, no, I know how to dribble. You know what I'm saying? I took a step.
Mhm.
I didn't put my hand under the ball. That's my documentation. Like, I'm challenging that. I know how to dribble. Way unless
Right.
you trip.
Right.
But I yell, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's live. Yep, flag on the play. That's a great summary. Flag on the play. The referee calls it. You throwing a flag on the ref. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and they
Right.
show too. It's kind of like a referee that call a game, like because the judge does benefit on sending people to the prison or jail, whatever. Like they're not there for free. It's like a referee, like, hey, I can make sure that this player gets fouled or not get a call, and they getting paid too. So it's like, dang, you really pocketing, you know, side change or all the change, knowing you can control the quote unquote game. Like you're in control of these people's lives almost, or you actually are. And shouldn't have that type of power.
Yeah, it's wild, man. But yeah. And now y'all starting to get it's making sense, right? It's like you see what they up to, it's like, man, this is crazy. And when you kind of like test your hand even no matter how small the situation, it could be a ticket, whatever, just going in there and just holding them to what they're supposed to be held, you start seeing things in real time, how they be acting.
Are you gonna go on July 28th?
Yeah, July 28th. But it's been multiple situations. And what I've discovered is some of them just don't be knowing. Like it was one quote unquote judge actually looked it up for like 15 minutes and went over his like local laws and stuff. Just I could tell he was reading it for himself too. Like he was reading it out loud for the record, but I could tell like that's the first time he was reading it.
He was looking for something.
He was looking for something. He was like, man, everything you saying might be right, but you filed it wrong. And you have any case law to support like you can file stuff like this and not file it how we say you have to file it. And I kept telling him Article 6, and then he basically read some stuff out his own stuff that like, the only exception would be the supremacy clause, where we don't have to follow Ventura state local laws. It's only in one special case. And I'm like, bro, that's what I've been telling you. You read it, you stumbled across it. I've been telling you this the whole time. It's a supremacy clause.
Right, flag on the play, OG.
Yeah, flag on the play. He said it.
It's
He admitted it. He didn't even know what he was about to read. It was going to put him to a corner. You know what I mean? So
kind of like when they remind me like when Iverson crossed Jordan. They're like, "What the hell is that move?" Can you do that? You know, like whoa, carry. Like, no, I can elongate it. You know, just because you've never seen this before. Like, this is illegal. This is a legal move. You know, dangerous, something you've never seen before, and it's slightly confusing. But you know, this is I can do this on the court. You know what I'm saying? I can file this way just because you haven't seen this supremacy clause. I can. This is not a quote unquote illegal thing for me to do. Just because you haven't defended it doesn't mean it's not illegal. You know, just because you can't stop this move, don't mean this move isn't legal here. To get your
Right.
defense or know, how to play the game. Go, oh, what's that? What brother doing? He went behind the back, step back. Oh no, we not playing that. You just got to come up, bounce one time, and shoot. That's not
Right.
how I play here. It's like, and you come up in the court, dribbling all crazy. Oh, what's this brother doing? What's all this supremacy stuff you got going on here? We any other place you got that? It's like, nah, you can do this, and you see it on their face in real time. And now they trying to copy the move now. Like you see everybody doing the thing. But yeah, it's maybe,
Yep. And make sure y'all go last too. They gonna make sure you go last.
yeah, we got a good bit of documentations of running into the colonists out there for sure. Like so on a lot of levels. So you definitely and your attire feature background too. I don't know if you probably did that on purpose, but that's kind of tight. Like what you wearing fit your green screen or whatever that's gonna fly.
I
Yeah,
appreciate you, man.
cleaned up.
Yeah, I seen this. I'm like, yeah, I'm running with this one for the day. That's how I'm feeling, man.
Hard.
I appreciate you, man. So yeah, man, we go into the divine origin of the Asiatic nations, and we can close out. Uh, we got chapter 45, Circle 7, Holy Quran, the divine origins of the Asiatic nations. The fallen sons and daughters of the Asiatic nation of North America need to learn instead of hate, learn to love instead of hate, and know their higher and lower self. This is the uniting of the Holy Quran of Mecca for teaching and instructing all Moorish Americans. The key to civilization was and is in the hands of the Asiatic nations. The Moorish, who were ancient Moabites and founders of the holy city of Mecca. The Egyptians, who were the Hamathites, and of a direct descendant of Mizraim. The Arabians, the seed of Hagar, the Japanese, Chinese, the Hindus of India, the descendants of the ancient Canaanites, Hittites, and the Moabites of the land of Canaan, the Asiatic nations of North, South, and Central America, the Moorish Americans and Mexicans of North America, Brazilians, Argentinians, the Chileans in South America, the Colombians, Nicaraguans, and the natives of San Salvador or El Salvador in Central America, etc. All of these are Muslims. The Turks are the true descendants of Hagar, who are the chief protectors of the Islamic creed in Mecca, beginning from Muhammad I, the founder of the uniting of Islam, by the command of the great universal God Allah. So just to double down on what we were talking about earlier for the whole Black Latino, we all the same. We all Muslims. We all come from a culture that we can unite behind today. So I might talk about this on a live too. But yeah, any other thoughts before we officially close out the meeting for today? And Brother Moses, if I'm gonna go live, and then you can either send me an invite request or I'll send you one or whatnot. And we just chop it up. We don't gotta go too long. I think it's imperative for the people to hear from Mexican brother what we're trying to do.
No, yeah, most definitely. I'm gonna jump on, get some clarification to the subject, or bring some clarification.
Well, I appreciate you, man. But yeah, other than that, nobody have any thoughts? How you feeling over there, Heidi? I mean, Katie?
I'm good. Just listening, getting all the information. I'm good. I appreciate all the knowledge and information today.
Hopefully it was informative and practical, sustainable, you know. All right. Let's see. All right. Well, peace and love. You got something?
Yeah, really quick. So there's gonna be an event for anyone out here in the Cleveland territory. There's gonna be an event on July 13th, which is gonna be on a Sunday. It's gonna be a Black and Brown Unity event over in Santa Ana. So I just want to keep putting that out there. Mafi's gonna be performing and speaking. And yeah, just want to, have everyone out there support and it'd be a great time. So just want to put that out there. And the July 28th, I don't know if you're still doing the court thing, but just want to kind of keep that in the air.
Yeah. Yeah. Do a demonstration. Oh yeah. And that's, that quote unquote Black and Brown event, that's City Hall level.
Mhm.
That's going to be the mayor of Santa Ana,
Mhm.
councilman. So before I even got wind of it, it was already on the tip of Black and Brown Unity,
Mhm.
based on the climate of what's going on. So all we're going to do is just take it a step further. How the Moorish paradigm just does just that. It's really the only salvation to unite, quote unquote, Black and Brown. And I feel like that audience, the City Hall audience, right there, right? So
Mhm.
that should be great.
Mhm. They're also taking other speakers and performers. So if you guys know anybody that's interested in speaking and performing, they're taking other people also. Just let me know or let Mafi know. All right. All right.
But yeah, what date is that again?
That's on July 13th. It's going to be on a Sunday.
Okay, July
Some,
13th.
I don't have the official time yet, but sometime in the afternoon, probably like 10 to like 4 or 5, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That's right up my alley.
You and Crip Jesus doing the song, bro?
You write them out
I'll probably send them an invite.
and word out too. When you say word out and come in.
Yeah, see Wardell, King L, and that's another young Wardell, man, the Mexican Moor. So hopefully he can pull up. That'll be great. That'll be a great demonstration. A lot of Mexicans in Santa Ana is pretty much 80% Mexican or quote unquote Latino. So that'll be great. So we can demonstrate in front of that audience. But okay, let's do one more round for any type of questions before we close out officially. Questions, statements, comments. All right. Well, everybody have a beautiful rest of the day, Sunday. And peace and love to all. Peace and love to all.
All right. Peace and love, Morris.
Islam.